Greetings from the Thompson household. I'm thankful for the chance to share with you all today. One thing that's been encouraging to me during this trying time is thinking through the concept of exile. Exile is this idea of longing to be home, longing for somewhere that's safe and secure, someplace better than where you are now. And it's an idea that's intrinsic to all of humanity, and that's probably why it also spans the story of the Bible. From the very first pages, Adam and Eve, as they're banished from God's presence in the garden, they experience exile, and they're sent out away from their home, and they're longing to return back to the garden. And the Tower of Babel, and the story of Joseph, and throughout the Old Testament, there's these stories of exile, culminating in the big story of exile, which is the story of Israel and Judah's exile out of the Promised Land. And it's this story that becomes the central identity of God's people as they think about what it means to be followers of the Lord. It looks like being in exile. And what's so interesting is that even when Israel and Judah return back to the Promised Land, they say that they're still in exile. That even though they're physically home, that living under oppressive rulers, surrounded by people who don't share their values, that they're not actually home, that there's this feeling of exile that has persisted in God's people as they're longing for somewhere better, for their true home. And this carries all the way through to the New Testament. Writers like Peter, as he writes Christians in Asia Minor, reminds them that they're exiles in this world. And Paul, as he writes the Philippians, encourages them that even though they're citizens of Rome, they're really citizens of heaven. And so to be in exile is central to this idea of what it means to be God's people. And what you and I are experiencing right now is so similar in many ways, that as we live in our homes under this odd time of shelter in place, that though we're physically home, we don't really feel home. Many of us are missing friends and family members that we would love to see and that we can't. And we're missing out on so many fun opportunities of things that we love to do. And so this feeling of lack that you have, that's okay. That's what it means to be God's people, is to feel this longing for home, longing for something better. And so today I bring you two encouragements from Old Testament writers who write to Israelites who are experiencing exile. And I hope it will encourage you as you think about how to live during these hard times. The first encouragement comes from Jeremiah. Jeremiah was writing to Israelites who were heading off to Babylon, and it was not an enjoyable experience. The Babylonians were harsh and cruel as they destroyed Jerusalem. And for the Israelites, the encouragement that they get from Jeremiah is quite surprising. He tells them, settle in, build your homes, plant gardens, have children, and live your life. In other words, find ways to serve the Lord faithfully in your circumstances. It's not your home, it's not what you dreamed of, and it's not what you like, and yet God has called the Israelites and has called us to live faithfully where we are. And so my encouragement is to think of ways that you can serve the people around you safely, and you can serve your family members in this hard time as you wait and long for something better. And the second encouragement I have comes from Ezekiel. As Ezekiel wrote to Israelites, so many of them were concerned that they were missing out on God's presence, that what they had known was the temple, and that's where they had met with God. And now that the temple was destroyed and the Israelites were scattered across the land, they worried, is God with us? And so the book of Ezekiel is this sweet encouragement to them and to us to remind us that God was never confined to one location. Though we miss our friends from school and fellowship with believers from church, you can take heart to know that God is with you, like God was with Joseph as he was sent off into Egypt. And so all of this is one big encouragement for us to be reminded that this world was never our home, that what we're really made for is to long for a true and better Eden, that we've always been exiles and our lives have been comfortable, and we're thankful for that. And my prayer for all of us is that as we endure this hardship, that the Lord would grow us in our love for Him and our longing for the even better home that He has for us to come. Thanks. Have a good day.